Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here. For nerds, by nerds, hanging out with the full crew today.
I'm Ted.
Ryan.
I'm Nate.
And today we will be talking about, it's actually a video request from one of our viewers.
Art
Wood. And he wanted us to talk about dragons and their familiars.
Well, that's unfamiliar territory.
Are they familiars?
They could be. They could be all the above and none.
Okay.
So you were mentioning that, in earlier editions, dragons could actually have people as their familiars.
Yeah, there was absolutely a spell for that. We got a spell for that.
Yeah.
And so you could use traditional familiars for a dragon, or it could turn out that the emissary that the party has been parlaying with for weeks is actually his familiar. Is another way to go for it. It's almost like the dragon has their own Renfield.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also too though, like if somebody's a member of, say, a dragon cult, like they would happily take up on that offer to be the Renfield. To
magically bound to you, of course.
Yeah,
dude. I just
honored.
picture a bunch of the cultists like down in the pit below, going,
Pick me!
choose me. The claw, the dragon claw comes down.
Yeah.
Find familiar. Which one?
Well, I mean, they'd probably live like a prized pet, just as a humanoid. So they would be like pretty swanky. He'd probably make like a little quarters out of like all the treasure that the dragon has.
Stacks of coins.
Yeah.
Makes his room.
Yeah,
Makes the
absolutely.
walls. And
Gold bricks.
So I can almost see like a dragon too choosing like the most beautiful person, whether it's male or female. And it probably maybe would want some other qualities too, like someone who's like a master harpist or a poet or some kind of artist, because like dragons,
Something with prestige to it.
yeah, because dragons like to collect things, and it would probably consider its familiar,
A representation of itself.
well, yeah, and it's like a prized possession,
Yeah.
prized pet,
Yeah.
almost a family member, but not quite.
I got you this sweater, when we go for walks, I'm going to put clothes on you. Like,
Yeah, dress you
So
up.
you could wind up having, this character doing quests and things and being rewarded by the dragon for service. So he might, be substantially better off than someone of the same level.
your reward, same as always, I won't eat you this time.
The dragon sits down the bottle of ketchup next to him. You don't get this today.
Or it's like the Dread Pirate Roberts thing, I won't kill you today.
But just in case, take your butter and herb bath.
Yeah.
Good
Absolutely.
work, sleep well. I'll most likely kill you in the morning.
Yeah.
It does give the dragon the ability to have eyes and ears in a community, and really, like, if you go with this person is the familiar, then the dragon can actually see and hear and experience
Through his eyes.
through their servant, right? So
It could even be asleep doing that. Like some kind of like dreamland kind of thing where he doesn't actually get up. or do
the dragon
anything.
was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
dragon.
I think that'd be pretty cool if the dragon actually wasn't awake, but you could communicate with him through this familiar.
Well, you're kind of unaware of your surroundings anyway when you do that with a familiar. So, I mean, it's almost like a meditative state.
I mean,
anyway.
really, you could do
Yeah.
a thing with a dragon that like chooses to like experience the world through his familiar. It's like, I'll just slumber and rest up my strength for some great task or whatever. But in the meantime,
So do we want to take this, one step further and say, would you allow a PC to be in this position?
Actually,
it would be like a great flaw. Like it's like, oh, I got this powerful overlord.
What about a warlock?
Yeah, I was just thinking a
what if
dragon
the dragon
patron.
was the patron to the
Dude,
warlock?
you remember Shaylin Zir? Totally would fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shaylin Zir will work. For you guys, that's an old campaign that we used to run, and Shaylin Zir was
him it's a secret.
okay.
No, go. Here you go.
Shaylin Zir was our god of darkness and shadows, but it was actually it was like a shadow dragon.
A slumbering shadow dragon. Basically, he also controlled nightmares and dreams and stuff like that too. It was part of his portfolio
Yeah,
because he was unconscious himself. Like
Right.
he'd been felled, but he fell into that realm of dreams, basically.
Oh yeah, I actually forgot that, but
You
it was
forgot
like
the lore. What the hell?
I know.
Don't remember.
I
lore
may
like
have
my
even
brother.
made it up. I don't know.
How long ago did we
you
play
don't remember it
Wolfgang?
because it never existed until right now.
Yeah. It was probably 10 years ago
Yeah,
or so.
It's been a while.
probably
So-
more than.
More than. So the other thing too, there is the invocation for warlocks that actually lets you speak through your familiar.
It's a good trick, good parlor trick for dragons.
Yeah.
It would be cool, you know.
The big belling, booming voice out of like a petite girl or something like that.
Slender waif.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could definitely do some interesting things, and especially if you did something like that, you know, like say you planet this familiar in a community for a while, and something happens and they kind of get found out, and basically they're about to stand judgment for basically spying on them, and all of a sudden the dragon takes over and lets them know what he thinks of their judgment, and that he's going to basically raise this town, city, whatever it is, to the ground, and nothing will exist here for generations,
100 years.
Yeah, after you're gone, if you dare harm my servant.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
And then you got to think twice, and then they'd probably do it anyway.
Well, they'd be
Then
like,
you'd have
this
to come-
man's mad.
Yeah.
And he talks in crazy voices.
And then the next servant comes, who would be out for justice or vengeance.
Well, no, I mean, at that point in time, the dragon just comes and just annihilates the village.
It depends how involved the dragon really was.
Maybe it's like Billy Goat's Billy
Scroat Scruff.
Billy Goat's Gruff.
Scroat
Yeah,
Scruff.
say it for me.
Billy Goat's Gruff.
So you got to
Exactly.
send 3 familiars,
Yeah, I did
but the
3
third
people to say
one's
that
gonna be like
too.
a storm giant.
Yeah.
It keeps getting bigger and bigger. Yeah.
And so at that point, what does that make the giant, the dragon, like a half dragon, half Tarrasque?
Let's work on that template.
Yeah.
The half Tarrasque template or the half dragon template? They already have it.
The half dragon.
Well, just slap it on the Tarrasque and see what happens.
and see what happens.
See,
Nice.
how high can we push the CR system? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the half dragon in this edition is kind of weenie
Yeah.
compared to
Not
previous.
weedy enough to play him as a character.
Well, true. It really doesn't. I don't think it would actually do very much for the Tarrasque other than give it a breath weapon.
Because we all know that the Tarrasque needs a breath weapon.
Yeah.
It is something
Among
it's lacking.
Yeah.
A cone attack, yeah.
So, all right. So now the Tarrasque as the familiar of the dragon. Let's talk about that. Actually, I mean, so you could do a thing. I mean, when we talk about interesting uses of familiars, you could also do a thing like a crazy cult where, like, you know, like the lore of the Tarrasque is that it sleeps. You could
Yeah.
have the guy who's the familiar to the Tarrasque, and he wants to
Oh,
find
yeah.
it. Like, so you could do the Warlock Pact thing with a friggin' Tarrasque.
That would actually be really cool to, yeah.
Well, there was in the 3rd edition the
Waker the
Call-
Beast.
the
yeah, that's what I was thinking of too. Is like
Yeah.
this guy that's obsessed with essentially annihilating the world, wants to watch the world burn.
He doesn't want to annihilate the world. He just wants to wake up the Tarrasque. That's going to annihilate the world.
Yeah.
He wants to see it happen. It's like being a storm chaser.
Yeah, but you know what happens with those guys every time. They're like, "Oh, master, I have awakened."
First thing he- yeah.
First beast killed by getting stepped on or eaten.
Yeah.
In 5th, can you cast spells through your familiar?
Yes, touch spells, I believe.
Well, there you go. Dragon blasting through your familiar, that would be pretty powerful.
Well, yeah, it would be, and especially like with you going with oh no, look, now he's talking in a crazy voice, and they're like, melt your face with a shocking grasp at 20th level.
Well, I mean, so if you have the PC that's the familiar of the dragon, that kind of opens the doorway to a Deus Ex Machina as the GM, whatever. Like, if you feel like it as the GM or DM to do so,
They
you
become
could.
your meat puppet.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like, if you really want to save the party, I mean, you know, you could, if it was something
If you
very.
really want to say it, I don't even know who you are anymore.
If it goes along with the story, like if it's important to the story to have something.
If it's something
happen.
dragon personality-wise, if it's something a dragon would do,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah,
if it's a prize familiar.
Yeah.
you know, you set stuff up, and you know it's, you know, are the PCs making bad choices that you want to put them on a correction path? I mean, there's lots of different things that you can do. I just think if from a story point, it'd be really cool to be like, all right, well, as opposed to me serving the kingdom, I'm serving this dragon. And I mean, you could technically do it to a good dragon as well as an evil dragon or a neutral dragon, and not really have it, be a major impact on the story, except in key moments when it's like, well, I am this guy, and I was like, oh crap, well, what do we do from here?
Yeah, that stuff's always really tricky, and pulling it off without like completely like usurping the agency of the players and making their and taking away
Their choice, their free will.
pretty much
But I mean,
sometimes you just gotta let them die.
Well, I mean, I don't think I would want to do it in a situation where you step in to save them if they're making bad choices. But to do it where it's a key element that's planned, I think when you as a player make the type of choice to say, all right, I want to be a dragon's familiar as my character.
You kind of know you're opening yourself up to that,
Yeah,
or you have that discussion.
Yeah, you're working with the GM to be like, look, this is what I have planned. This is what I want to do. Are you cool with it? And if you are, there's going to be an ongoing conversation because you're going to be privy to what the dragon shares with you.
And you're also you gotta read familiar. You are a familiar. You chose. I said the background was cool, and we go with it, but.
Actually, that
you're
could
going
be
to pay
a
the penalty of
too.
dealing with the background of being a familiar.
So, do you think that would be a custom background, familiar? Like, make that a thing?
Well, sure, it could be. And what if part of being the familiar is like the caster can kind of like recast the spell and change the familiar? Wait, so what if like your dragon's like boobs today? You got boobs today.
Well, you're not. Oh, they do kind of change the essence of the thing, right?
Yeah, because you're technically a fey creature or infernal or celestial creature, I think, and made of.
Well, I don't. If you actually have a quasit doesn't turn into the regular familiar. Like if you get a familiar as a quasit or a fairy dragon,
You have that.
it's not the same as the regular generic familiar.
I prefer like actually converting
so
a thing
a
that
human
exists,
wouldn't be
like,
an actual.
So I think you got it right. I think you could make it a background.
Yeah. That it is familiar, but I prefer like even though it says that like it's some sort of essence sort of stuff. This is basically so the druids aren't like I'm killing animals left and right or whatever.
Like tears.
Like
my cat died again.
I like the idea of it being like the sort of epitome of that animal, like a fine specimen of that thing that you get. Like I mean, yeah, you could technically, and if it fit with the character, say if they were a shaman and it was a spirit animal, fine. But I kind of prefer it to be a real world thing that it exists, and you kind of bring it under your influence. You summon it to you,
Right.
kind of as it was in like 3rd edition,
Right.
Yeah. But yeah,
you could work with either, but I think I lean more towards yourself as well. That you're not just creating something out of the ether and magic and say, hey, you're now my familiar. You bring it to you. I think makes more sense.
Yeah. So with our dragon pocket domains, whatever, you could absolutely have some servitors that function as a familiar of the dragon too, to be emissaries out in the world.
Yeah.
There's a good possibility you guys might be seeing some of that soon.
Yeah. As with this discussion, yeah.
So did we cover?
Only Art Wood can answer that question.
Yeah.
So Art, what do you think? Did we cover it enough?
Familiarize
What
ourselves.
about the rest of you guys? Did we miss anything? Do you have anything that you want to add to the conversation? Go ahead and put that in the comments below. While you're doing that, feel free to click like, share, even subscribe.
You can hang out with us over on Facebook.
All right, or you can catch us on Twitter at Nerdarchy.
You can also read the articles over on nerdarchy.com.
Until next time,
Stay nerdy.